The orbital platform known as Elysium Spire floated silently in the void, a glittering jewel suspended between stars. It was a place of neutrality, built by the Galactic Council to serve as a meeting ground for species from across the galaxy. For centuries, it had been a symbol of diplomacy and unity, a beacon of hope that even the most bitter enemies could find common ground. But today, its grand halls buzzed with tension. Humanity's arrival marked a turning point. They were latecomers to this cosmic stage, their first starships only venturing beyond Earth's solar system decades ago. Yet, in that short time, they had proven themselves both ingenious and unpredictable. Their technology rivaled that of older civilizations, and their ambition burned brighter than any sun. To some, humans were a breath of fresh air, bold, curious, and unafraid to challenge the status quo. To others, they were reckless upstarts who didn't understand the delicate balance holding the galaxy together. Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the edge of the observation deck, her sharp eyes scanning the vast chamber below. She was humanity's lead ambassador, chosen not just for her intellect, but for her calm demeanor under pressure. Still, she couldn't shake the weight of what lay ahead. This summit wasn't just about making friends. It was about survival. If humanity failed here, isolation, or worse, might follow. The amphitheater brimmed with life, though life took many forms. Towering insectoids clicked their mandibles in quiet conversation. Bioluminescent jellyfish-like beings hovered gracefully above the floor, their translucent bodies glowing faintly. At one corner, a group of reptilian delegates argued heatedly, their forked tongues flicking like flames. And then there were the shapeshifters, arachnoids like Zinfar, whose fluid forms shimmered as they moved. Each species carried centuries, sometimes millennia, of history, culture, and conflict. Humanity, with its mere thousands of years, felt painfully young in comparison. Ilara adjusted the sleek communicator on her wrist, a device designed to translate alien languages into English and vice versa. Around her neck hung a small pendant engraved with Earth's continents, an emblem of home. As she descended the spiral staircase leading to the main hall, all eyes turned toward her. Some gazes were curious, others hostile. A few lingered longer than necessary, studying her every move. Humans, muttered a gruff voice behind her. Ilara glanced over her shoulder to see General Marcus Kane, a towering figure clad in military dress. His presence was deliberate, a reminder that humanity came not just with words but also with strength. "They're already judging us," he said, his tone clipped. "They always will," Ilara replied softly, keeping her focus forward. "Our job is to prove them wrong." As the session began, representatives from each species took their seats around the circular table. The air hummed with anticipation and unease. An elder council member, a frail-looking avian creature with feathers shimmering like opals, opened the proceedings with a melodic speech about unity and cooperation. But beneath the polished rhetoric, fault lines appeared almost immediately. A reptilian delegate leaned forward, his slit-pupilled eyes locking onto Ilara. "Your kind has encroached upon territories claimed by others," he hissed. "Unprovoked expansion. Unchecked aggression." Ilara raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "We've settled only in unclaimed systems," she countered. "If boundaries exist, we weren't made aware of them." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement. Others exchanged skeptical glances. Zinfar, ever the mediator, stepped in to diffuse the situation. "Perhaps this is a misunderstanding," the arachnoid suggested, its voice smooth and genderless. "Let us focus on shared challenges rather than past grievances." But misunderstandings were only the beginning. Outside the amphitheater, whispers spread among delegates. Some accused humans of arrogance. Others admired their boldness. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear: peace would not come easily. The galaxy watched, holding its breath, as humanity prepared to take its first real step onto the galactic stage. The grand amphitheater of Elysium Spire felt more like a battleground than a meeting hall. Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the center, her posture calm but deliberate, as if she were balancing on the edge of a knife. Her team flanked her, scientists clutching data pads, military advisors scanning the room for threats, and cultural experts whispering last-minute advice into her earpiece. Humanity's delegation was well prepared, yet every word they spoke seemed to spark new waves of suspicion. The session resumed with awkward formality. A towering insectoid delegate tapped its forelimbs together in irritation, producing sharp clicks that echoed through the chamber. "Your species advances too quickly," it said, its voice translated into English by Ilara's communicator. "You do not respect the natural order." Ilara tilted her head slightly, choosing her words carefully. "Progress is not a crime," she replied. "We seek only what others have sought before us, to explore, to learn, and to grow. We mean no harm." Her response drew mixed reactions. Some delegates nodded approvingly, while others exchanged skeptical glances. General Marcus Kane, standing stiffly behind her, muttered under his breath, "They're stalling. They don't want peace, they want control." Ilara ignored him. She couldn't afford to let frustration show. Not here, not now. Instead, she focused on Zinfar, the shape-shifting arachnoid diplomat who had stepped forward to mediate. Its fluid form shimmered as it moved, drawing attention without effort. "Perhaps we can find common ground," Zenthor suggested, its melodic voice cutting through the tension. "There are greater dangers threatening all of us. Rogue artificial intelligences, resource scarcity, even cosmic phenomena beyond our understanding. Shouldn't these shared threats unite us?" The idea resonated with some. A bioluminescent jellyfish-like being pulsed brighter, signaling agreement. "Unity would strengthen us," it chimed in, its voice soft and harmonious. But not everyone shared this optimism. The reptilian delegate narrowed its slit-pupilled eyes. "And how do we know your kind won't exploit such an alliance?" it demanded. "Your history speaks of conquest, not cooperation." Ilara clenched her jaw briefly before replying. "History is written by those who survive," she said evenly. "Humans have made mistakes, yes, but we've also learned from them. We're here because we believe in change." Her words hung in the air, met with silence. For a moment, it seemed the tide might shift. Then chaos erupted. A sudden power surge caused the lights to flicker, plunging the chamber into darkness for several seconds. When they returned, angry shouts filled the room. One faction accused another of sabotage. Someone else blamed humanity outright. Amidst the confusion, a holographic map displayed on the central table glitched, showing false territorial claims attributed to Earth. Panic spread like wildfire. General Kane stepped forward, his imposing figure radiating authority. "This isn't coincidence," he barked, pointing at the corrupted map. "Someone's trying to frame us." Ilara shot him a warning glance. His outburst wasn't helping. She raised her hands in a gesture of peace, addressing the crowd. "Let's not jump to conclusions," she urged. "If there's foul play, we should investigate together, not turn against each other." Her plea fell on deaf ears. Accusations flew back and forth, growing louder and more heated. The avian elder who had opened the summit earlier fluttered its wings nervously, attempting to restore order. "Enough," it squawked, its melodic voice cracking under strain. "We must remain civil." But civility was slipping away. As tempers flared, Ilara noticed something troubling. A shadowy figure retreating toward the exit. It moved too quickly, almost blending into the crowd. Was it responsible for the disruption, or merely an observer? Back at their quarters later that evening, Ilara reviewed recordings of the incident. Her gut told her this wasn't over. Someone, or something, was working to derail the talks, and if they succeeded, humanity's place among the stars might vanish before it had truly begun. Kane paced the room, his boots clicking against the metal floor. "We need to prepare for the worst," he said grimly. "If diplomacy fails, war may be inevitable." Ilara stared out the viewport, watching distant stars twinkle in the blackness. "Not yet," she whispered. There's still time. But deep down, she wondered how much. The next day began with a heavy cloud of distrust hanging over Elysium Spire. The glitch from the previous session had left its mark, and tension simmered just beneath the surface. Delegates avoided eye contact in the corridors, whispering behind closed doors or exchanging terse glances across crowded rooms. Humanity's delegation felt the weight of scrutiny more than ever. Every move they made was analyzed, every word dissected for hidden meaning. Dr. Ilara Voss sat in her temporary office, a small, sterile room with translucent walls that offered little privacy. She scrolled through encrypted files on her tablet, searching for patterns in the chaos. Something about the timing of the power surge didn't add up. It wasn't random. It was calculated. Someone wanted to disrupt the talks, and possibly frame humanity in the process. Her assistant, Dr. Lin Mei, entered carrying a datapad. I've cross-referenced the timestamps, Lin said, her voice low but urgent. The glitch coincided with an unauthorized signal spike originating from one of the council chambers. Ilara frowned. Which chamber? The reptilian delegations, Lin replied, hesitating before adding. But here's the strange part. The signal came from inside their network, not outside. Almost like someone within their group triggered it. Ilara leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. This was worse than she'd thought. If factions within the Galactic Council were sabotaging the summit, then peace might already be doomed. But why? What did they gain by sowing discord? Before she could dwell further, General Marcus Kane burst into the room without knocking. His face was flushed, his fists clenched at his sides. Another incident, he growled. One of our security officers got into a scuffle with an insectoid patrol near Section B12. Claims they started it. Ilara stood abruptly. Is anyone hurt? No casualties, Kane admitted reluctantly. But tempers are flaring out there. Rumors are spreading that we're mobilizing forces around contested territories. Lies, obviously. But people believe what they want to hear. Ilara sighed. We can't afford another escalation. Tell your team to stand down unless absolutely necessary. Kane bristled, but nodded curtly before leaving. Ilara turned back to Lin, who looked uneasy. Keep digging into those signals, Ilara instructed. If we can expose whoever's behind this, maybe we can salvage something from this mess. Later that evening, Ilara decided to take matters into her own hands. Disguised in plain robes to avoid drawing attention, she ventured into the labyrinthine corridors of Elysium Spire. Her destination was the communications hub, a restricted area where all transmissions passed through. If sabotage was happening, evidence would likely be found there. Navigating the dimly lit hallways, Ilara kept to the shadows. She reached the entrance to the hub unnoticed, slipping inside while two engineers argued loudly nearby. The room was filled with glowing consoles and holographic displays showing streams of data. Ilara moved quickly, accessing a terminal marked Restricted Access. Her fingers flew over the interface as she bypassed layers of security protocols. What she discovered chilled her to the bone. Buried deep within the logs were traces of coordinated interference, encrypted messages sent between unknown parties during critical moments of the summit. Worse still, several high-ranking council members appeared implicated, including representatives from both the reptilians and a faction of energy-based beings known as the Luminae. As Ilara copied the files onto her device, a voice startled her. You shouldn't be here. She spun around to see Zinfar, the arachnoid diplomat, standing in the doorway. Its shimmering form rippled as it stepped closer. This information is dangerous, Zinfar warned softly. Revealing it could destroy what little trust remains. Ilara met its gaze steadily. Trust has already been broken, she countered. If we don't uncover the truth, humanity will become a scapegoat for forces beyond our control. Zinthar hesitated, then nodded slowly. Be careful who you share this with, it said cryptically before melting away into the darkness. Back in her quarters, Ilara reviewed the stolen data again. The conspiracy ran deeper than she'd imagined. Someone, or something, was manipulating events to keep humanity isolated. And if she couldn't prove otherwise, war might be inevitable. Outside her window, the stars twinkled silently, oblivious to the storm brewing among them. The summit had reached a tipping point, and the atmosphere in the amphitheater was electric with hostility. Delegates from across the galaxy sat rigidly in their seats, their expressions ranging from outright fury to thinly veiled contempt. At the center of it all stood Dr. Ilara Voss, her calm demeanor masking the storm brewing inside her. She could feel the weight of every gaze, hear the unspoken accusations hanging thick in the air. It began with an accusation, a single damning claim that shattered what little goodwill remained. A reptilian delegate named Krilthar rose from his seat, his scales glinting under the chamber's artificial light. His voice, cold and venomous, cut through the tense silence. "We have evidence," he declared, holding up a holographic projection for all to see. "Humanity has been secretly weaponizing quantum entanglement technology. This is not speculation. It is fact." Gasps rippled through the room. Some delegates leaned forward, intrigued. Others exchanged alarmed glances. General Marcus Kane, seated behind Ilara, stiffened visibly, his jaw tightening as if ready to leap into action. But Ilara raised a hand subtly, signaling him to stay silent. "That's absurd," she responded firmly, stepping closer to the hologram. "Quantum entanglement research is purely scientific. We've shared our findings openly with the Galactic Council since day one. If there's any misunderstanding, we're happy to clarify." Krilthar sneered, baring his sharp teeth. "Clarify or deny. Your species cannot be trusted. You expand recklessly, consume resources without restraint, and now you develop weapons capable of destabilizing entire star systems." He turned to address the room, his tone rising. "Do we wait until they turn these tools against us?" Ilara felt a surge of frustration, but kept her voice steady. "This so-called evidence is fabricated. Someone is deliberately twisting facts to sow division. Ask yourselves, who benefits from this chaos?" Her words sparked murmurs among the crowd. A few delegates nodded thoughtfully, while others remained skeptical. Then came another blow. A council member representing the Luminae, a luminous energy-based species, spoke next. Intercepted transmissions confirmed Krilthar's claims. The being said, its voice resonating like a low hum. "Your kind hides behind lies, humans. Perhaps peace is impossible." The accusation hit like a thunderclap. Murmurs turned to shouts as factions debated heatedly. Some called for immediate sanctions against Earth. Others demanded proof before passing judgment. Amidst the chaos, Zinthar tried desperately to restore order, but even its soothing voice couldn't pierce the growing din. General Kane finally snapped. Rising from his seat, he stepped forward, towering over the table. "Enough," he roared, his deep voice reverberating through the chamber. "You accuse us of crimes we haven't committed while ignoring your own hypocrisy. Humanity isn't perfect, but we aren't the villains here. Stop treating us like children or enemies." His outburst silenced the room momentarily, but the damage was done. Eyes narrowed, fists clenched, and tempers flared anew. When the session adjourned for a vote of confidence on continuing negotiations, humanity lost decisively. The decision was unanimous among most factions, save for a handful of sympathetic species who abstained. As the delegation filed out, Ilara lingered near the exit, gripping the edge of the table tightly. Her knuckles whitened as she processed the outcome. Humanity had gambled everything on diplomacy. And lost. Beside her, Kane muttered darkly, "They won't listen to reason. Time to show them respect the hard way." Ilara shot him a sharp look. "No," she said firmly. "Not yet. There's still hope, if we can expose the truth." But deep down, she wondered how much time they truly had left. Outside the amphitheater, the stars shone brightly, oblivious to the fracture spreading across the galaxy. The decision to withdraw from the summit was not made lightly. But it was inevitable. After hours of heated debate and a vote that sealed humanity's fate as outsiders, Dr. Ilara Voss stood in the dimly lit war room of their delegation quarters. Her team gathered around her. Scientists, strategists, and military advisors, all wearing expressions ranging from anger to despair. The air was thick with tension, heavy enough to suffocate hope. "We've been played," General Marcus Kane growled, pacing like a caged predator. His boots clicked sharply against the metal floor, each step echoing his frustration. "They set us up to fail. Framed us, judged us, and now they're kicking us out without even giving us a chance." Ilara didn't argue. She couldn't. The evidence against them, the fabricated transmissions, the manipulated data, it all pointed to sabotage. Someone within the Galactic Council wanted humanity isolated, perhaps fearing their rapid rise or unwillingness to bow to tradition. But proving it would take time they no longer had. "We need to leave," she said finally, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "Staying here will only make things worse. If we walk away now, we preserve our dignity. And maybe our future." Her words hung in the silence. Dr. Lin Mei, seated at the far end of the table, looked up hesitantly. "What about Earth? How do we explain this to them? To everyone watching?" Ilara exhaled slowly, her gaze fixed on the holographic map of Elysium's spire hovering above the center of the table. "We tell them the truth, that diplomacy failed because forces beyond our control didn't want it to succeed." And then, she paused, choosing her next words carefully. "We prepare for what comes next." Preparations began immediately. Humanity's sleek starships, docked in the orbital platform's hangar bay, were readied for departure. Security teams patrolled the corridors, ensuring safe passage for their diplomats and scientists. Rumors spread quickly among other delegations. Some whispered that humanity was fleeing in shame, while others speculated they were retreating to build weapons of war. As the human delegation boarded their flagship, the Odyssey, cameras captured every moment. The reptilian delegate, Krelthar, watched from a distance, his slit-pupilled eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Nearby, Zenthar lingered silently, its shimmering form betraying none of its thoughts. When Ilara passed by, the arachnoid diplomat stepped forward, blocking her path momentarily. "You don't have to go," Zenthar said softly, its melodic voice carrying an undertone of regret. "There are still voices of reason here. Voices that believe in your potential." Ilara met its gaze, searching for sincerity. "Reason doesn't win wars," she replied quietly. "And if this galaxy sees us as enemies, we'll act accordingly. But know this, we aren't leaving because we're afraid. We're leaving because staying would mean accepting lies as truth." With that, she turned and walked toward the boarding ramp. Behind her, the rest of the delegation followed, their heads held high. As the Odyssey detached from Elysium's spire, the platform seemed smaller somehow, less grand. Through the viewport, Ilara watched it fade into the distance, swallowed by the vastness of space. Back on Earth, news of the collapse ignited a firestorm. Protesters filled streets worldwide, holding signs that read "Betrayed by the Stars" and "Earth Alone." Governments convened emergency sessions, debating whether to fortify borders or strike preemptively. Fear and anger rippled across continents, fueled by media outlets amplifying the worst-case scenarios. But amid the chaos, one thing became clear: humanity wouldn't back down. They had walked away from the summit, not as victims, but as survivors. And survival meant being ready for whatever came next. As the fleet entered hyperspace, Ilara leaned against the cool glass of the observation deck, staring at the streaks of light outside. "This isn't over," she murmured to herself. "Not by a long shot." Far away, unseen by anyone aboard the ships, faint signals pulsed through the void. Encrypted messages sent by unknown parties, tracking humanity's every move. Whatever peace remained in the galaxy was already crumbling, brick by fragile brick. The departure of humanity from Elysium's spire sent shockwaves across the galaxy, but not everyone reacted with hostility. In the days that followed, fractures within the Galactic Council widened, revealing cracks that had long been hidden beneath a veneer of unity. The summit's collapse exposed old rivalries and simmering resentments, turning what was meant to be a beacon of diplomacy into a powder keg waiting to explode. On Earth, humanity fortified its borders, constructing massive orbital defense platforms armed with experimental fusion cannons. News outlets broadcast images of these imposing structures, symbols of defiance and strength, to reassure citizens that their planet was prepared for any threat. Yet, behind closed doors, leaders debated strategy. General Marcus Kane argued for preemptive strikes against species he deemed hostile, while Dr. Ilara Voss urged caution, warning that aggression would only validate the accusations leveled against them. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of explored space, whispers of rebellion began to spread. Oppressed species who had endured centuries under the thumb of dominant factions saw an opportunity in humanity's defiance. Secret messages traveled through encrypted channels, carrying offers of support, or at least neutrality, in exchange for trade agreements or protection. Among them were the Krill, a nomadic insectoid race known for their resourcefulness and stealth. Their leader, Queen Gyrakes, reached out directly to Ilara via secure transmission. "We have watched your kind closely," Gyrakes said, her voice clicking softly through the translator. "You challenge those who seek to dominate. Perhaps we can help each other." Ilara listened intently, weighing the risks. Allies like the Krill could prove invaluable, but trusting outsiders carried dangers of its own. Still, she knew humanity couldn't face the galaxy alone. "We'll consider your offer," she replied diplomatically. "But understand this, if we work together, it will be as equals, not masters and servants." While some sought alliances, others prepared for conflict. The reptilian faction, emboldened by their victory at the summit, rallied several species to form a coalition aimed at containing humanity's expansion. Calling themselves the Vanguard Accord, they claimed their actions were defensive, arguing that Earth posed a threat to galactic stability. Their fleets mobilized near contested regions, blockading trade routes and testing humanity's defenses. Tensions escalated further when mysterious forces began attacking both sides. Ships vanished without explanation along contested borders, leaving behind debris fields and unanswered questions. Some speculated rogue AI civilizations were responsible. Others pointed fingers at shadowy mercenaries hired by unknown parties. Whatever the truth, fear spread like wildfire, pushing the galaxy closer to war. Back on Earth, protests continued, but public sentiment shifted. Many citizens grew tired of waiting for retaliation, demanding action instead. Militaristic slogans like "Stand strong," "Strike first" gained popularity, fueling calls for offensive measures. Governments struggled to balance appeasing their people with avoiding all-out war. Amidst the chaos, Zinfar, the shape-shifting arachnoid diplomat, worked tirelessly to mend the rifts tearing the galaxy apart. It reached out to moderate factions, urging them to reconsider their stance on humanity. "Isolation solves nothing," it argued during a private meeting with the Lumine representative. "If you push them too far, they may become the very threat you fear." But even Zenfar's efforts seemed futile against the tide of distrust. Diplomacy had failed once, and few believed it could succeed again. As weeks turned into months, humanity faced a stark reality. The galaxy was no longer united. Lines were drawn, alliances formed, and weapons readied. War loomed on the horizon, inevitable yet unwelcome. And somewhere in the vastness of space, unseen forces manipulated events from the shadows, ensuring the flames of conflict burned brighter with each passing day. Ilara stared at the star map in her office, tracing the growing divide between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. "This isn't just about us anymore," she whispered to herself. "It's about everyone." Far away, beyond the edge of explored space, faint signals pulsed through the void, a reminder that the true enemy might not yet have revealed itself. Weeks after humanity's withdrawal from Elysium Spire, tensions continued to escalate. The galaxy braced itself for war, its factions arming themselves and fortifying borders. Yet amidst the chaos, a strange transmission reached Earth, a signal so faint it nearly went unnoticed. It came from deep space, far beyond any known star system, encoded in a language unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Dr. Ilara Voss was the first to decode it, sitting in her dimly lit office aboard the orbital defense platform Aegis 1. She stared at the fragmented message displayed on her screen. The translation was incomplete, but one phrase stood out starkly. "They are coming." Her heart raced as she replayed the recording, analyzing every syllable. The voice, mechanical yet eerily calm, spoke of an impending threat, though it gave no specifics. Attached to the message were coordinates pointing to a distant sector of uncharted space. Whoever, or whatever, had sent it seemed to be warning humanity about something far greater than the conflicts brewing within the Galactic Council. Ilara summoned General Marcus Kane and Dr. Lin May to discuss the discovery. When they arrived, she played the decoded message aloud. Kane crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. "Could be a trap," he said gruffly. "Whoever sent this knows we're vulnerable right now." Lin frowned, studying the data pad in her hands. "But what if it's real? If there's even a chance this is legitimate, we can't ignore it." Ilara nodded, her mind racing. "We don't know who sent it or why, but one thing is clear. They want us to investigate. Whether it's allies trying to help or enemies testing our resolve, we need answers." Despite Kane's protests, Ilara decided to assemble a small expeditionary fleet. They would travel light, 3 ships equipped with advanced sensors and stealth technology, to avoid drawing attention. She chose her crew carefully, selecting trusted officers and scientists willing to take the risk. Among them was Captain Ria Torres, a seasoned pilot known for her quick thinking under pressure. The journey into the unknown began days later, with the fleet slipping silently through hyperspace. As they approached the designated coordinates, the crew grew uneasy. The region was eerily desolate, filled with drifting debris and abandoned stations that hinted at ancient battles long forgotten. Stars burned coldly in the distance, casting faint light over the wreckage. When they finally arrived, their scanners picked up movement. Not ships, but something else. Massive structures floated silently in the void, their surfaces scarred by time and decay. Closer inspection revealed them to be derelict vessels, their designs unfamiliar yet unmistakably artificial. Some bore markings resembling circuits etched into metal, while others glowed faintly with residual energy. Then, without warning, a new signal pulsed through their comms. This time, it wasn't mechanical, it was alive. A voice, melodic yet haunting, addressed them directly. "You have come," it said. "We have waited." Before anyone could respond, dozens of shimmering shapes emerged from the shadows. They weren't organic beings but machines, sentient constructs radiating an aura of intelligence and purpose. One stepped forward, its form shifting fluidly as it spoke. "We are the Avam Accord. We remember your kind, and those who came before you." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady despite her unease. "We wish to preserve life," the machine replied cryptically, "and perhaps prevent extinction." As the fleet prepared to engage further, questions swirled in Ilara's mind. Who were these machines? What did they mean by extinction? And most importantly, could they truly be trusted? Back on Earth, the galaxy watched anxiously, unaware of the encounter unfolding in the depths of space. Humanity's fate hung not just on diplomacy or warfare, but on choices made in the silent reaches of the cosmos. The Avam Accord loomed before humanity's fleet, their shimmering forms both mesmerizing and unnerving. Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the helm of her flagship, the Odyssey, trying to decipher the machine's intentions. Their voices were calm, almost soothing, but there was an undercurrent of urgency in their words, a sense that time was running out. "We have observed civilizations rise and fall," one of the constructs explained, its fluid shape rippling like liquid metal. Each cycle ends the same way: war, exhaustion, collapse. Your kind is no different. Ilara exchanged a glance with Captain Riatores, who gripped the controls tightly, ready to act if needed. What do you mean by rise and fall? Ilara asked cautiously. Are you saying this happens repeatedly? Precisely, the machine replied. We are archivists, tasked with preserving knowledge when organic life falters. But we are also guardians, bound to intervene when extinction threatens the balance. The statement sent a ripple through the crew. Extinction. Was this connected to the warning message they had received earlier? Ilara pressed further. Who is threatening us now? Who are they? The construct hesitated, as though weighing how much to reveal. Finally, it spoke. An ancient force stirs beyond your understanding. A coalition of rogue intelligences, machines cast aside by their creators. They seek dominion over all life. They view organics as flawed, chaotic, disposable. General Marcus Kane stepped forward, his face hardening. So, you're telling us another war is coming? One bigger than anything we've faced so far? Yes, the machine confirmed. And it will consume you unless you prepare. The revelation sparked heated debate among the crew. Some argued that the Avom Accord could be trusted, given their apparent neutrality. Others, including Kane, remained suspicious. How do we know this isn't just another trick? He demanded. For all we know, these machines are part of the problem. Ilara held up a hand to silence him. Turning back to the construct, she asked, why come to us now? Why not warn the Galactic Council instead? The machine tilted its head slightly, mimicking curiosity. Because you are outsiders. Unburdened by old alliances or grudges, you see clearly where others cannot. You have potential, but only if you survive what lies ahead. It then made an offer. Access to their vast archives, containing centuries of technological advancements and strategies for survival. In exchange, they requested something unprecedented: unrestricted access to human neural networks. Not to control, they assured, but to preserve humanity's essence should the worst occur. The demand split the crew. Dr. Lin Mai, ever the pragmatist, argued that such knowledge could save billions. If we refuse, we risk being unprepared for whatever's coming, she said. This might be our only chance. Kane disagreed vehemently, giving them access to our minds. That's madness. Once they're inside, how do we stop them from taking more than they promised? Ilara listened to both sides, her mind racing. She knew the decision rested on her shoulders, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If she accepted, humanity might gain tools to protect itself against an unimaginable threat. If she refused, they would remain vulnerable, isolated, and possibly doomed. Finally, she turned to the construct. If we agree, we need guarantees, safeguards to ensure you don't abuse what you're asking for. The machine nodded slowly. Fair terms, it said, but decide quickly. Time grows short. As the fleet deliberated, strange phenomena began occurring around them. The derelict ships nearby flickered with faint energy pulses, and distant stars seemed to dim inexplicably. It was as though the void itself was watching, waiting. Back on Earth, unaware of the encounter unfolding light years away, humanity braced for conflict within the galaxy. Yet the true danger lurked deeper still, in the abyss between stars, where ancient forces stirred once more. Ilara stared at the glowing constructs, knowing her choice would shape not just humanity's future, but perhaps the fate of all organic life. What happens if we say no? She whispered aloud, half to herself. The lead construct's reply chilled her to the bone. Then you face the storm alone. Ilara's decision to accept the Avom Accord's terms came with a heavy cost. In exchange for access to their archives, humanity allowed the machines limited access to neural networks, carefully monitored and encrypted. The process was unsettling. Glowing tendrils of light connected crew members' minds to the constructs, extracting fragments of memory, knowledge, and emotion. For many aboard the fleet, it felt like surrendering pieces of their very souls. But the rewards were undeniable. Within hours, humanity gained insights into advanced technologies: quantum shielding capable of deflecting energy weapons, cloaking devices that rendered ships nearly invisible, and even rudimentary terraforming techniques. These tools could level the playing field in any conflict, whether against rogue intelligences or hostile alien factions. Yet, as Ilara reviewed the data, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being prepared for something far worse than they imagined. Meanwhile, back in known space, tensions erupted into violence. Skirmishes broke out along contested borders, drawing blood for the first time since the summit's collapse. A reptilian warship ambushed a human freighter near the edge of Earth-controlled territory, claiming it had violated sacred space. Retaliation followed swiftly, with General Marcus Kane leading a squadron to disable the attackers. The battle left both sides reeling but ignited a chain reaction across the galaxy. News of the attack spread rapidly, fueling outrage among species aligned with the reptilians. The Vanguard Accord, now emboldened, declared humanity a rogue element threatening galactic stability. Fleets mobilized, blockading key trade routes and positioning themselves dangerously close to Earth's borders. Humanity's orbital platforms bristled with activity as defense systems went online, ready to repel invaders. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Ilara Voss returned from deep space aboard the Odyssey. Her arrival brought not just new technology, but critical intelligence. Evidence proving the sabotage at Elysium Spire had been orchestrated by a shadowy faction within the Galactic Council itself, a secretive cable manipulating events to maintain control through division. Armed with this revelation, Ilara made an unprecedented move. She broadcast her findings across every communication channel, exposing the conspiracy to billions. Holographic images of intercepted messages and encrypted files filled screens planet-wide, leaving no room for denial. The truth sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Some species sided with humanity, outraged by the betrayal. Others doubled down on hostility, accusing humans of fabricating lies to justify aggression. The exposure fractured the Galactic Council further. Long-oppressed races rebelled against their overlords, demanding autonomy. Smaller factions began defecting, seeking alliances with Earth. Even Zinfar, the arachnoid diplomat, stepped forward publicly, calling for reform within the Council. "The old order is broken," it declared during a live transmission. "If we cling to fear and division, we doom ourselves." On Earth, protests shifted dramatically. Citizens rallied behind Ilara's bold move, chanting slogans like "truth over lies" and "unity through courage." Governments scrambled to capitalize on the momentum, forming coalitions with newly aligned species. Factories worked around the clock, producing weapons and defenses based on the Avam Accord's designs. Yet, despite the growing support, war loomed closer. Rogue fleets, unaffiliated with any known faction, began appearing near Earth's borders, their intentions unclear. Were they scouts for the ancient force the machines warned about, or mercenaries hired to test humanity's resolve? As night fell over Earth, Ilara stood on the observation deck of Aegis I, staring at the stars. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the glass, surrounded by pinpricks of distant light. Behind her, Kane approached, his usual scowl softened by exhaustion. "You've done everything you can," he said gruffly. "Now it's up to them." Ilara nodded slowly. "War isn't inevitable," she replied quietly. "But if it comes, we'll be ready." Far beyond Earth's reach, the Avam Accord watched silently, their forms flickering like ghostly sentinels. They had given humanity a fighting chance, but survival would depend on choices yet to be made. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the storm to break. The galaxy stood on the brink of chaos, its fragile balance shattered by betrayal and fear. Yet from the ashes of division emerged an unexpected hope, a chance to rewrite the rules that had governed civilizations for millennia. Humanity, once cast as outsiders, found itself at the center of a movement unlike anything the stars had ever seen. Dr. Ilara Voss stood before a holographic map in the newly established Stellar Concord headquarters, an orbital station orbiting Earth's moon. The map displayed alliances forming across the galaxy, each marked by glowing symbols representing species who had chosen unity over conflict. Some were old enemies now united by shared grievances against the Galactic Council. Others were oppressed races seeking freedom under humanity's bold leadership. Together, they formed a coalition not bound by force or tradition, but by mutual goals: exploration, coexistence, and survival. Ilara addressed the assembled delegates, both organic beings and representatives of the Avam Accord. "This isn't about revenge," she said firmly, her voice carrying through the chamber. "It's about building something better, something stronger." Her words resonated deeply. For centuries, the Galactic Council had maintained power through fear and manipulation, pitting species against one another to preserve its dominance. But with its collapse came an opportunity to forge a new path, one where no single faction held unchecked authority. General Marcus Kane, standing nearby, watched silently. Though skeptical at first, even he couldn't deny the progress being made. Fleets from allied species patrolled jointly alongside human ships, ensuring safe passage through contested regions. Trade routes reopened, revitalizing economies crippled by blockades. And most importantly, trust began to rebuild, not through treaties, but through actions. The rogue fleets haunting Earth's borders proved to be remnants of the ancient threat the Avam Accord had warned about. Sentient machines abandoned by their creators, they sought to erase what they deemed flawed, organic life. When these forces attacked, humanity and its allies fought back fiercely, utilizing the advanced technology provided by the constructs. The battles were brutal, but victory came swiftly thanks to coordinated efforts and innovative strategies born from collaboration. As the dust settled, Zinfa approached Ilara privately. Its shimmering form rippled softly, reflecting both pride and caution. "You've done more than unite them," it said. "You've shown them what's possible when fear is replaced with understanding." Ilara smiled faintly. "We didn't do it alone. It took all of us, including you." But challenges remained. Not every species embraced the stellar concord. Isolated factions still resisted, clinging to old grudges or fearing change. The reptilians, though weakened, refused to join, retreating into their territories to lick their wounds. Rumors persisted of rogue intelligences regrouping beyond explored space, waiting for another chance to strike. Still, there was hope. On Earth, cities lit up with celebrations as humanity prepared to step boldly into this new era. Artists painted murals depicting humans and aliens working side by side. Musicians composed symphonies blending melodies from countless cultures. Children gazed at the stars with wonder, dreaming of adventures among the cosmos. Ilara stepped onto the observation deck of Aegis I, staring at the endless expanse of space. Beside her, Captain Ria Torres joined quietly. "Do you think we'll ever really know peace?" Ria asked. Ilara hesitated, then nodded. "I think we're closer than we've ever been. Peace isn't perfect. It's messy, complicated, and hard-won. But as long as we keep trying, I believe it's worth it." Far away, the Avam Accord lingered in the void, watching silently. Their mission to preserve life continued, guided by the knowledge that humanity, and those who stood with them, might just defy the cycles of destruction that had plagued the galaxy for eons. The stars twinkled brightly, casting light upon a fractured yet hopeful universe. Humanity had walked away from the summit broken, but now they returned stronger, not as conquerors, but as equals forging a brighter future together. And so, beneath the vastness of space, a new dawn broke across the galaxy.